My college roommate Cho Tian likes to boss people around. After she broke her left leg in a car accident, she would always wash her clothes together with mine. When the laundry was done, she asked me to get it from the washing machine, and after I brought it back, she begged me to help her hang it up to dry. I paid for the laundry, and I hung the clothes up, but she didn't warn me in advance that her clothes would bleed color, and my white coat ended up stained black. 15 minutes before the exam started, she begged me to go back to the dorm to get her medicine. As a result, I missed the exam, failed the course, and became ineligible for the scholarship selection. After breaking up, she rushed into the heavy rain threatening suicide, insisting on climbing the steps at Lover's Slope in the Western Hills. I pushed the wheelchair, huffing and puffing up the slope. While she thrashed and screamed hysterically in the rain, I slipped on the soles of my feet, was knocked down by a wheelchair, and rolled into the middle of the road. My body was accidentally run over by an oncoming school bus and cut in half. I died on the spot, but she managed to press the wheelchair brake in time and escaped unharmed. Afterwards, the school compensated her with a large sum for emotional distress and even secured her a spot in graduate school. My death was ruled as an accident, yet Cho Tian managed to rise to success because of this so-called accident. When I opened my eyes again, Cho Tian glanced at the stained clothes and said with a smile, "I think the black dye is quite even, and the shape looks like a giant panda. It's rather cute. Why don't you skip washing it and just let it dry to see how it turns out?" I swung my arm and threw a heavy punch, my fist slamming hard into the area around her eyes. "Giant panda, you look like a giant panda to me. Still think you're cute now." When I opened my eyes again, I was in the bathroom hanging clothes. In the sky blue bucket, my white windbreaker was wrapped around Cho Tian's black hoodie. When I took it out to look, a large black stain had spread across the chest area. Staring at the familiar panda-shaped color patch before my eyes, amid the anger, I realized I had been reborn. Cho Tian was in a good mood, eating the meal her roommate Fang Yuti had brought back for her. She broke her left leg in a car accident and now can only get around using a wheelchair and crutches. The school has no elevator, and our dorm is on the 6th floor. Everyone found it troublesome to help her go up and down, so they did everything for her in great detail. In her previous life, Cho Tian used her limited mobility as an excuse. Seeing that I was going to do laundry, she handed me her dirty clothes to wash together. This wasn't the first time she had done this. I felt sorry for her physical disability, so I didn't refuse. I just asked her repeatedly before washing, "Does your clothing fade?" "It doesn't fade. After you wash it, could you hang it up for me as well?" This was her response. So, I ended up paying for the laundry, and the detergent was mine too. I have to help her hang the clothes after they're washed. I can let go of all these small things. But seeing my newly bought coat stained black, I could no longer hold back my anger. I immediately confronted her with the clothes. "You said your clothes don't fade." Qiuxianshan widened her eyes in surprise. "No way. I clearly remember they don't fade. Maybe I remembered wrong." I rolled my eyes at her and soaked the clothes in hot water, scrubbing them several times with oxygen bleach. That damn black stain just wouldn't come out. Cho Tian glanced at the blackened clothes and said with a laugh, "I think the black dye is quite even. And the shape looks like a giant panda. It's rather cute. Why don't you stop washing it and just let it dry to see the effect?" In my previous life, she used the same excuse to fool me. The other two roommates followed along, muddying the waters and persuading me to make peace with her words. I took it seriously, and after the clothes dried, they even encouraged me to wear them outside. The ridiculous outcome was posted on the confession wall, sparking widespread mockery. Thinking of this, I swung my arm and struck hard, landing 2 heavy punches right on her eye sockets. "A giant panda, you look more like a giant panda to me. Here are 2 dark circles for you. Still think you're cute now, too." Qiuxianshan's pig slaughter-like screams echoed through the dorm room. She had racked her brains but never expected me to hit her. After all, in our previous life, she took advantage of her physical disability to treat me like a servant. I sympathized with her situation and kept making concessions and tolerating her behavior, but in return, she became even more aggressive and lawless. Having been reborn, I will never allow the tragic fate of my previous life to repeat itself. Right now, Cho Tian was covering her face and crying. "I really didn't do it on purpose. Was it necessary for you to hit me?" The other 2 roommates heard the commotion and gathered around. I threw the ruined coat over Cho Tian's head and said coldly, "This coat cost 3,000, and the tag was just removed this morning. You've been using my washing machine every day for the past 6 months. It costs $3 per cycle, plus the cost of laundry detergent and other supplies. Just pay me 4,000 directly." Upon hearing this, my roommate Fang Yuti stepped forward to uphold justice. "Moyun, we're all in the same dormitory. You know very well about Tintin's family background. Where would she find 4,000 to pay you back?" Another roommate, Lu Wenjing, also came to mediate. Yeah, just have her pay you 20 for the dry cleaning. It's not worth getting so worked up over such a small matter. Qiu Tiantian began to cry poor and play the victim, sobbing as she said, Mo Yun, I'm sorry. It was my fault for staining your clothes, but I really can't come up with 4,000. I just had surgery before the new year and still need to take various painkillers. The more she spoke, the more aggrieved she felt. Halfway through her words, she choked up and burst into loud sobs. Judging by their demeanor, it's as if I'm the one who won't forgive her. I am the one who committed the unforgivable crime. I remained silent, quietly retrieving from another bucket Fang Yudi's apricot yellow skirt and Lu Wenjing's pink little blanket. Now it's all black and red. A while ago, during the change of seasons, we went shopping together and bought new things. And this time we washed them all together in one washing machine. Only Qiu Tiantian later threw in 2 old pieces of clothing. One was black, one was red, and both were severely faded. These 2 idiots must have been confused from watching too many dramas and forgot that I washed their clothes together. No, they stared at each other, their expressions uglier than if they had eaten shit. After realizing what happened, why didn't Fang Yudi try to persuade me to be generous this time? She frowned and raised her voice. Qiu Tiantian, why didn't you tell us in advance that your clothes would bleed color? My skirt has been stained like this. How am I supposed to wear it? Lu Wenjing also pinched her blanket with a look of disgust. This is so annoying. You didn't do it on purpose, did you? Are you jealous of us buying new things, so you destroyed them? Qiu Tiantian, having her little scheme exposed, hurriedly defended herself guiltily. No, I really just forgot by accident. Send the clothes to the dry cleaner, and I'll cover all the costs. I'm really sorry, everyone. I know I was wrong. Afterward, I reluctantly agreed. If the dry cleaning results are unsatisfactory, then ask Qiu Tiantian for compensation. The other 2 roommates were the same. In an effort to mend her relationship with us, Qiu Tiantian invited everyone out for a meal. 3. I didn't agree to go with them. I just made an excuse, saying I was busy and didn't have time, seeing that I refused to go. Qiu Tiantian became so anxious that her eyes turned red. Yun, are you still unwilling to forgive me? You won't even give me a chance to make it up to you. Do you really hate me that much? Please come with us. If you don't, I'll truly be tormented by guilt. Suddenly acting erratically, he began slapping himself repeatedly on both cheeks. I looked at her speechlessly, then suddenly burst out laughing. Who are you putting on this delicate act for? Put some more force into it. Or should I help you hit? Just use the same strength I did earlier. The 3 people in front were all stunned. Fang Yudi looked at him with utter disbelief. Mo Yun, have you lost your mind? You seem like a completely different person. Lu Wenjing then grabbed Fang Yudi and Qiu Tiantian by the shoulders. Don't worry about her. Let's go eat. Just the 3 of us. We're all roommates in the same dorm. We still have 3 years to spend together. Can we really ignore Tiantian completely just because she made one mistake? Fang Yudi nodded. Qiu Tiantian showed a hint of relief, then gave Lu Wenjing a grateful look. I just smiled without saying a word, calmly watching them leave. In my previous life, I was publicly mocked for wearing a panda coat and then went to Qiu Tiantian, demanding that she compensate me. She handled it in the same way. She tried to settle the matter by treating everyone to a meal. She took us to a hot pot restaurant. The shop she went to was quite expensive for her. The 3 of us discussed it and decided to treat her to a cup of milk tea. We came back with the milk tea, and she greeted us at the door with a smile, inviting us in. Strangely, as soon as we sat down at the table, all the dishes had already been served. It's just that each portion is very small, and there's even dried chili oil on the vegetable platter. My roommate Fang Yudi suspects that this restaurant has hygiene issues. We called the server over to ask for a new one, but after the server came over, they gave us a dirty look, muttered a few words under their breath, and then left. Throughout the entire meal, everyone in the restaurant was looking at us with complicated expressions. I was afraid the food wasn't clean, so I didn't touch the dishes and only ate the freshly brought fruits. However, Lu Wenjing and the others seemed to enjoy their meal quite a bit, saying that the hot pot broth was very flavorful this time. When the meal ended, we went to the front desk to pay the bill. The waitress only charged Qiu Tiantian $10. Qiu Tiantian lied to us, saying she had snagged an incredibly good deal with a coupon. I hadn't gone far when I heard the waitstaff behind me laughing and mocking. These young girls, all dressed up so glamorously, end up scavenging leftovers from every table as soon as they enter the restaurant. The one with the lame leg. The store manager wouldn't let her move, so she lay on the ground faking an injury. It gave the store manager such a fright that he broke out in a cold sweat. A bunch of weirdos bringing along a disabled person to freeload. It's something you don't see every day. Each word pierced the heart, every sentence grated on the ears. Unfortunately, the 3 of them were in a hurry to use the restroom and didn't hear these words. Let me be the only one to lose face. Since then, I have never dared to go to that mall again. Fang Yudi and Lu Wenjing accepted Qiu Tiantian's invitation. As expected, Qiu Tiantian tipped them to the same hot pot restaurant as in her previous life. They did the same absurd things. However, in their previous life, they were completely unaware of it, but this time was different. The waiter's sarcastic remarks were all heard by Fang Yudi and Lu Wenjing. Their faces flushed with shame and anger. Fang Yudi shouted at the top of her voice, "Qiu Tiantian! Aren't you disgusting? You were the one who said you'd treat us to a meal, and then you ended up taking us to eat someone else's leftovers." Lu Wenjing clutched her stomach, dry heaving, and was almost crying from anger. Who knows if those people at that table had any contagious diseases? I need to go to the hospital to get my stomach pumped. Qiu Tiantian, wah. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get your forgiveness, before, when my allowance wasn't enough. I would come here to eat leftovers to fill my stomach. I'm used to it. I thought you wouldn't mind either. As she was speaking, she suddenly fell out of her wheelchair, lying on the ground, her whole body convulsing. This left the two of them with a belly full of anger and nowhere to vent it, so they had no choice but to take her to the hospital first. This was Qiu Tiantian's usual tactic. Whenever everyone couldn't stand her, she would pretend to have phantom limb pain. She would fall to the ground, convulsing all over. Those who didn't know would think she had epilepsy. Taking this opportunity, she would repeatedly recount the tragic experience of losing her left leg in a car accident, to evoke our sympathy. Then she would soften her stance, admit her mistakes, and even kneel on the sickbed, begging for everyone's forgiveness. In her past life, she had experienced phantom limb pain countless times, and this trick had never failed her. Sure enough, despite a series of unpleasant experiences, Fang Yudi and Lu Wenjing still set aside their past grudges. They forgave Qiu Tiantian. However, this final harmony among roommates did not last long. It was completely ruined by Qiu Tiantian's actions. 15 minutes before the final exam begins, I am frantically reviewing key points outside the Spanish exam classroom. A message that at everyone suddenly pops up in the dorm group chat. I forgot my painkillers in the dorm, and now my left leg is hurting badly. Can any of you help me go back to the dorm to get it? Please, I really can't take the exam without it. Forgetting things and being careless are old habits of Qiu Tiantian. That's what I dislike most about her. She used to either forget to bring her textbooks to class or forget to bring her medicine. This time, she begged me to go back and get them for her. Unfortunately, I didn't know how to say no back then, and my sympathy for her was overflowing. I remember one time, she brought the wrong textbook to her intensive English reading class. I only realized it when the class bell rang. During that period, the intensive reading teacher was extremely resentful because the school had rejected her application for a publicly funded doctoral study abroad program. She was filled with anger every day in class. Whenever she discovered that someone was not taking the class seriously, at best, you'll lose points for your usual performance. At worst, you'll be humiliated in front of two classes of students. Unfortunately, thanks to Qiu Tiantian, I experienced both of those that time. After the class bell rang, I rushed back to the dormitory in the heavy rain. I went to get Qiu Tiantian's textbook, completely drenched like a drowned rat. I wanted to sneak into the classroom through the back door, only to find it locked. I had no choice but to enter through the front door and was caught red-handed by the intensive reading teacher. I had no choice but to explain that I was helping a disabled classmate retrieve their textbook, but Qiu Tiantian, afraid of losing points herself, denied my explanation. The homeroom teacher thought I had a bad attitude, being late and lying about it. Not only did they deduct 3 points from my conduct score, but they also made me stand in punishment for 2 class periods. Just as I was staring blankly at the message, Qiu Tiantian shamelessly tagged me. In my previous life, I rushed back to find painkillers for her. I ended up missing the exam directly and failed the Spanish class I usually performed best in. I was ineligible for scholarship selection for that entire academic year. Mo Yun, your exam is in the East First Teaching Building, which is closest to the dormitory. Could you please make a trip there? I'm dying of laughter. She doesn't even beg me now. I really gave her too much face, quickly typing a retort. Why don't you just die from the pain? It always hurts either right before class or right before an exam. You always pick the times when everyone is busy. Qiu Tiantian, you're not jealous that everyone studies better than you, so you're making excuses to trip us up, are you? 6. Qiu Xianqian sent me a sticker of her rolling her eyes. My heart was filled with the panic of being exposed. I just forgot to bring my painkillers by accident. Do you have to be so suspicious of me? If you don't want to, forget it. I still have Yudi and Wenjing anyway. I continued to retort. You've forgotten your textbooks over 20 times this semester, and your painkillers more than 30 times. Everyone reminds you every day, and you forget to bring them every day. It seems you're not far from dementia, you might as well just give up on the exams. Feng Yudi and Lu Wenjing saw the message and immediately understood what was going on. Feng Yudi, I just reminded you before I went out today, and you forgot again. I think you did it on purpose, didn't you? Lu Wenjing, why don't you go back to the dorm yourself since you forgot it? If we miss the exam, we'll fail and have to take a makeup. If we fail a course, the school won't award us scholarships. Are you going to take responsibility for us? Everyone was talking at once, condemning Qiu Tiantian, so she had no choice but to give up her mischievous ideas. She kept apologizing to everyone in the group chat. 90 minutes later, I successfully completed my Spanish class exam. The exam questions were very simple, and I saw my grades when winter break came. I ranked second in the Spanish class with a score of 95. With this 95, my comprehensive evaluation ranking directly jumped to the top 3 in the grade. I successfully received the first-year scholarship of 5,000 yuan. Qiu Tiantian's elective language was Japanese, and she barely reached the passing grade. At the start of the new semester, a few of us were discussing our grades. We brought up that incident again where she was acting up before the exam. She made excuses to save face. I didn't do well on the exam because my phantom limb was too painful. How can I make you believe me? Feng Yudi and Lu Wenjing exchanged a glance, both sneering disdainfully. Qiu Tiantian was so upset she started crying and called her boyfriend for comfort. It's originally the language of the Japanese, so isn't it normal that I can't learn it well? My roommate not only doubts my character but also looks down on my learning ability. I can't stand living in the dorm anymore. An anxious male voice came from the video. Baby, don't cry. Whoever bullied you, tell me, and I'll take care of her. 7. The camera unexpectedly swept across my face. It's her. I asked her to go back to the dorm to get painkillers for me. She wasn't willing to help with such a small favor and even took the lead in isolating me in the dorm. Wah wah wah. I'm about to die from grievance. I reached out and snatched Qiu Tiantian's phone, hanging up the video call. Then I proceeded to delete and block her so-called boyfriend in one swift move. Qiu Tiantian screamed in panic. But it was already too late to undo what had been done. Not fond of taking sneaky photos anymore. Why did you stop? Why don't you keep making the video call? Qiu Tiantian furiously tousled her hair and screamed hysterically at me. Ah, how dare you delete him? I raised my hand and slapped her, pointing at Feng Yudi, who was drying her hair wrapped in a towel. I spoke with righteous indignation. Yudi was almost completely exposed to that man. I really don't know if you're just stupid or downright malicious. This is the girls' dormitory, not your love nest with that scumbag. Go to the balcony if you want to make a video call. Feng Yudi tightened her towel and chimed in. Qiu Tiantian, why are you still in contact with that scumbag? And you secretly filmed me. How would you like it if I stripped you and took photos for strangers to see? Lu Wenjing, that guy has had over a dozen girlfriends in a year and a half. Even a toilet brush is cleaner than him. I think you're really desperate. Qiu Tiantian's mind went haywire, imagining a whole drama of women competing with each other. Nonsense. You must be jealous that I found a handsome guy to be my boyfriend. Sour grapes. My boyfriend said I'm his first love, and he'll propose to me after he graduates. Can't you just stand to see me happy? Forget it. You can't talk sense into someone who's determined to ruin their own life. Qiu Tiantian's boyfriend is the notoriously infamous playboy of the college. He has a well-known hobby. He loves collecting stamps. Just like in my previous life, Qiu Tiantian had pursued him for 3 months before the car accident, and he didn't even give her a glance. The reason was that she was too ordinary. He had already dated the same type before, but after Qiu Tiantian had her left leg amputated, this despicable man started clinging to her eagerly. We knew he was only driven by curiosity, which is why he started a relationship with Qiu Tiantian. After the novelty wears off, he will definitely dump her without a second thought. Before, everyone couldn't bear to see Qiu Tiantian get hurt by the scumbag, so they all earnestly advised her to break up with the scumbag, but Qiu Tiantian not only refused to listen, she also secretly had unprotected sex with the scumbag. 8. In her previous life, she naively complained to her boyfriend after getting pregnant. My roommates all say you're a scumbag and will definitely dump me in the future, but now I'm pregnant with your child. You're going to be a dad. Aren't you happy? That scumbag was only in his 2nd year of college, not even 20 years old yet. His face turned dark after hearing those words. He wished he could fling Qiu Tiantian all the way from China to Mount Kilimanjaro. How could he possibly be happy? Instead, he displayed his consistent character and spoke sarcastically to Qiu Tiantian. I saw you walking with a man last time. Who knows whose bastard is in your belly? Let's break up, and don't contact me again. Angrily, Qiu Tiantian insisted on climbing the lovers' slope steps of West Mountain despite the heavy rain. She said it was the place where she and that scumbag had fallen in love. That time, it was also a rainy day. And the scumbag took the initiative to hold an umbrella for her and confessed his feelings, holding on to a sliver of hope. She blindly believed that as long as she went to that place and got drenched in the rain, a scumbag will recall the sweet memories they shared, leading him to change his mind. The rain made the ground slippery, and there was a very steep slope near the lovers' stairs. If an accident were to happen, it could easily result in the loss of 2 lives, the counselor asked us, her roommates, to keep an eye on her to prevent her from doing something drastic like attempting suicide. I pushed the wheelchair uphill. Fang Yudi and Lu Wenjing took turns miserably calling the scumbag in the heavy rain. After the scumbag's call connected, he not only refused to come to Lover's Slope to take Qiu Tiantian away, he also insulted Qiu Tiantian, calling her a slut. She insisted on not using a condom. So what does her pregnancy have to do with me? That slut was so wild in bed. But now after breaking up she's pretending to be some pure love saint. I already have a new girlfriend. If she wants to stand in the rain, let her soak herself. It'd be best if the rain makes her lose the baby, so I won't have to deal with the trouble. Qi Tiantian completely broke down, roaring in the rain and shaking her wheelchair frantically in agitation. The wheelchair slipped from my hands, and I desperately reached for the armrests. My feet slipped, and I lost my balance. Knocked over by the wheelchair and tumbling into the middle of the road, the oncoming school bus mercilessly ran over my body, crushing it in 2. I died on the spot, but Qiu Tiantian quickly pressed the brake on the wheelchair and narrowly escaped disaster. Afterward, the school compensated her with a large sum for emotional distress and even secured her a spot in graduate school. My death was ruled as an accident, yet Qiu Tiantian managed to rise to success because of it. The bitter memories pierced my heart. A plan for revenge gradually took shape in his heart. 9. At the start of the new semester, the class advisor announced good news to the entire grade. The college was about to move to a new campus. Everyone had heard about this news before, but it was only with the official notice that it was finally confirmed. Qiu Tiantian had a lot of miscellaneous belongings, so she specifically bought many cardboard boxes in advance to pack her luggage. But she was used to asking others to help her get the packages. She had never gone herself. This time was no exception. Upon hearing that I was going to the school gate to pick up a package, she turned to me and asked me to go to the school gate to get those cardboard boxes for her. It's just a few small boxes, not heavy at all. Could you grab them for me while you're at it? If I hadn't helped her carry them once in a past life, I might have actually believed her nonsense. Her so-called small boxes reached up to my neck, and each one was thicker than a fingernail. There were a full 10 large cardboard boxes, weighing 20 to 30 pounds, yet knowing this, I did not refuse in this life. In my previous life, it was common for Qiu Tiantian to ask me to pick up her packages, but that one time, she screwed me over the worst, just in time for lunch. The delivery driver called her to pick up the package at the school gate, during the pandemic. All the delivery stations on campus were closed. Packages could only be delivered as far as the school gate. However, the old campus was built on a hillside, and the pickup spot was essentially at the foot of the mountain. The dormitory buildings are all built halfway up the mountain. Qiu Tiantian begged me to help her pick up a package at the foot of the mountain, using the excuse that it's inconvenient for her to go up and down the hill in a wheelchair. I didn't want to go, so I refused her. She pretended not to understand and even called me stingy for not being willing to help with such a small favor. Seeing that I still remained unmoved, she adopted a roundabout tactic. Then come with me, can we go together? The school is all mountain roads. It's really too dangerous for me to go alone. Don't you also need a suitcase for your luggage? Come with me, I'll carry it myself. And I'll give you an extra cardboard box as a bonus. Is that acceptable now? I remained silent. She got anxious and started typing a message to our advisor on her phone at the beginning of the semester, who swore in front of the counselor that they would help me more. Moyun, and you call yourself the class monitor, is this how you lead by example? 10. After a series of threats and temptations, I was truly worn down by her. Only then did he agree to go with her, but as soon as the wheelchair reached the main road, she received a phone call. She then claimed she had an urgent matter and left without even looking back. Moyun, those cardboard boxes aren't very heavy. Please help me pick it up. I have something urgent to attend to right now. When I arrived at the school gate and saw the huge cardboard box, I was instantly dumbfounded. It wouldn't be a big deal on flat ground, but the problem is I have to drag this heavy load up the mountain path. I couldn't get through to Qiu Tiantian no matter how many times I called. I was also on my period at the time, with a dull ache in my lower abdomen. Every step I took, every stair I climbed was agony. God knows how I managed to bring those boxes back to the dormitory, and by the time I made it back to the dormitory, panting and exhausted, I felt half dead. Qiu Tiantian was leisurely watching a drama while having lunch. Her so-called urgent matter was to go buy an 8 yuan chicken leg rice from the snack street. Afterward, she just tossed me a cardboard box without even saying thank you. Recalling that incident, I suddenly realized I was a Ninja Turtle. I only kept tolerating and indulging her, forgetting that my life is also a life. On the surface, I readily agreed to pick up Qiu Tiantian's package, but in reality, I sent her package information to two people. One of them is Qiu Tiantian's best friend, Song Jingxi. Another is Qiu Tiantian's scumbag boyfriend, Kong Long, whom she hasn't broken up with yet. In her previous life, less than 2 days after the scumbag broke up with Qiu Tiantian, he seamlessly moved on to her best friend, Song Jingxi. In this life, their destined connection hasn't arrived yet, but it's only a matter of time before they get together. Why don't I help them bring this good marriage forward? The 10 cardboard boxes Qiu Tiantian ordered were placed together with her best friend. In that case, the delivery has arrived. It's reasonable for me to text her best friend to come pick them up, right? Song Jingxi received the delivery notification and promptly headed to the school gate. However, upon arrival, she found the school gate completely empty. Qiu Tiantian, who was supposed to help her pick up the package, was nowhere to be seen. She tried calling Qiu Tiantian, but the line was consistently busy. That's right, just in case. I've been calling Qiu Tiantian non-stop. Her face is as thick as I imagined. She didn't answer a single call. 11. There's no courier station at the school gate where packages can be stored. Song Jingxi had to drag the cardboard box up the hill all by himself. There are 2 paths up the mountain. One is a longer uphill road, and the other is a shorter staircase path. She chose the former. She was so exhausted that her face turned red and her neck thickened. While struggling to climb the slope, she cursed Qiu Xiantian's family. Halfway up, she accidentally bumped into a solid chest. She stumbled backward but was steadied by a pair of strong hands firmly supporting her waist. Looking up, Song Jingxi happened to meet the gaze of the man before her. The man had a tall, straight nose and handsome features. It was precisely Qiu Tiantian's scumbag boyfriend, Kong Long. Both of their faces turned red. Almost simultaneously, they asked each other, "How come you're here?" Once again, the exact same response was given. "I'm here to pick up Tiantian's package, and so, 1 word from you, 1 word from me." The two sides engaged in a back-and-forth conversation. Kong Long vents for Song Jingxi about Qiu Tiantian. "This cardboard box is so heavy, how could she let you carry it alone?" Song Jingxi puts on an innocent face and pretends to be magnanimous. "Tiantian has always been willful. As her good friend, it's only right that I help her out. But you, as her boyfriend, should be the one doing this. Why are you bossing me around so casually?" Kong Long's eyes darted around a few times, and he went along with what she said. "Actually, coming to help pick up the package was just his excuse. The reason he came here is because I anonymously messaged him. Qiu Tiantian is carrying his child. If he didn't come to help, I would post his secret on the campus confession wall." Song Jingxi was already jealous that Qiu Tiantian had found Kong Long as her boyfriend. Now that she had the chance to get close to Kong Long, she naturally wouldn't let it slip away. While the two were happily chatting, I passed by wearing a mask, pretending to be just a passerby. I gave Song Jingxi a swift elbow strike. She pushed her into Kong Long's arms. Song Jingxi lunged forward with too much force, accidentally knocking Kong Long to the ground. In the chaos, her lips touched Kong Long's mouth. The two of them performed a romantic scene straight out of an idol drama. Immersed in an ambiguous atmosphere, completely unaware, I secretly captured a side photo of them kissing. 12. The day before moving dorms, a torrential downpour, heavier than in the previous life, came pouring down. Qiu Tiantian's pregnancy symptoms have become increasingly evident these past few days. Her emotions are becoming more and more unstable. Holding the newly bought pregnancy test, she locked herself in the bathroom. When she came out, her hands kept rubbing her belly. She started asking us all sorts of random questions. What do you think would happen if someone got pregnant at school? What will the school do about it? Will they make the student take a leave of absence? Feng Yudi's answer deepened her concerns. That depends on how she got pregnant, right? If she got pregnant from fooling around with a man outside, it would definitely damage the school's reputation. Being fired would be the least of it by then. Upon hearing this, Qiu Tiantian's face turned deathly pale. She then anxiously asked, "What if it was from a normal relationship and she got pregnant?" Lu Wenjing looked at her with confusion. "Why are you asking so many details? Could it be that you—" Qiu Tiantian guiltily interrupted her speculation loudly. "What are you imagining? I just saw similar news, just asking casually." My next words dispelled her worries. It even sparked a glimmer of hope in her heart. "I'm not sure about other schools, but at our school, getting married can even boost your comprehensive evaluation score. If you get pregnant, you can just marry your boyfriend right at the university. By graduation, you'll have both a degree and a family. No harm, right?" These words gave Qiu Xiantian a lot of encouragement and courage. She had intended to send a WeChat message to inform Kong Long of the good news that she was pregnant, but after the message was sent, what greeted her was a conspicuous red exclamation mark. With my encouragement, Kang Long had already gotten together with Song Jingxi a few days earlier. He didn't even inform Qiu Tiantian about the breakup. He directly chose to cheat. Qiu Tiantian nervously called Kang Long. However, the call wasn't answered for a long time. I took the opportunity to open the campus confession wall, covering my mouth in surprise. Oh my, everyone, look at the confession wall. 13. The picture of Kang Long and Song Jingxi kissing became a popular post on the confession wall. Fan Yudi exclaimed upon seeing the picture, "Qiu Tiantian, your boyfriend is cheating on you." Lu Wenjing also opened her mouth wide. "Not just that, the person you cheated with is your best friend." Qiu Tiantian anxiously snatched Lu Wenjing's phone to take a look. A post showing Song Jingxi and Kang Long kissing was clearly visible. She had just mistakenly thought that after Kang Long was deleted by me last time, she hadn't successfully added him back. Thinking of the unanswered call just now and the post on the confession wall, she instantly understood everything. It wasn't that she forgot to add him back, but that Kang Long had blocked her. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got, and she stormed off to Song Jingxi's dorm in a rage. Song Jingxi was in the same class as us, and her dorm room was right next to ours. She was still completely unaware of the kissing sticker incident, thinking that Qiu Tiantian had come to hang out with her out of boredom. She opened the door with a smile. As the old saying goes, you don't hit a smiling face, but Qiu Tiantian didn't care about such things. Song Jingxi's smile felt like a silent provocation in her eyes. She stood up, holding onto the iron bed frame, grabbed Song Jingxi by the ear, and slapped her hard several times. "You shameless vixen. All you know is seducing other people's boyfriends. You like kissing, huh? I'm going to tear your mouth apart today." Song Jingxi's mouth was bleeding from the blow, but Qiu Tiantian didn't give her a chance to react, pinching the corners of her mouth and tearing them forcefully to the sides. Song Jingxi finally snapped back to reality. Qiu Tiantian had discovered that she was with Kang Long. She was howling in pain and couldn't take it anymore. She started wrestling with Qiu Tiantian. Fan Yudi and Lu Wenjing stepped in to break up the fight. Several girls who shared a room with Song Jingxi also helped to mediate the conflict. I took advantage of the chaos and crowded scene to squeeze into the center of the storm, but I certainly wasn't there to break up the fight. Qiu Tiantian was fighting so fiercely and passionately that she completely forgot about what was happening behind her. I sneaked up behind her and quietly pinched her leg with my fingernails. She thought it was Song Jingxi pinching her, so she fought back even harder. After all, Qiu Tiantian had an inconvenient left leg, and she gradually fell behind in this contest. Song Jingxi held her down with his left hand and continuously slapped her head with a slipper in his right hand. She was beaten until she was dizzy and disoriented, with blood at her forehead and the corner of her mouth, and her face was bruised and swollen. "I feel like I'm about to die." 14. At that moment, she suddenly noticed a vase that had appeared by her feet at some point. Driven by the instinct to survive, she broke free from Song Jingxi's grasp. With her right hand, she grabbed the vase and smashed it hard against Song Jingxi's forehead. With a loud bang, Song Jingxi's forehead was split open by a vase. She was dazed for a moment, then blood began to flow down from her forehead. After touching the warm liquid, she instantly fainted and lost consciousness. Actually, she didn't die, but in a state of extreme fear. People can lose their judgment due to excessive tension. Qiu Tiantian was already terrified out of her wits upon seeing Song Jingxi lying in a pool of blood. The other girls also stepped back one after another, not daring to approach. I checked Song Jingxi's breathing with my hand, doing my best to appear shocked and frightened. 2 large tears fell from my eyes, and my voice trembled along with them. Now is the time to test my acting skills, to seek revenge. I must perform convincingly enough. I braced my hands against the ground and retreated several steps. In disbelief, I covered my mouth with one hand and stammered, She's not breathing." Then, with another finger, pointed at Qiu Tiantian, raised her voice and shouted, "You killed someone, everyone. Call the police quickly." Qiu Tiantian killed Song Jingxi. Qiu Tiantian covered her head in despair, loudly denying, "No, I didn't. I was acting in self-defense. Don't look at me like that. I didn't kill anyone." Then, I pretended to panic as I took out my phone and tried to dial the emergency number, and persuaded Qiu Tiantian, "I'm calling the police now. If you turn yourself in, you might not get the death penalty." Qiu Tiantian tipped my phone, and suddenly her eyes turned fierce. She slammed the phone heavily onto the ground, then, like a stray dog, she pushed through the crowd blocking the doorway. Limping and stumbling, she fled in panic. I ran after her as fast as I could. 15. She was fleeing too frantically and chaotically. Just as she reached the stairwell, she missed a step and tumbled down the stairs. I watched as she fell from the 6th floor to the 5th, staring at the concrete stairs and the wound on her head from the impact. I gasped in sympathy for her. It must have been so painful. It's just a shame it wasn't enough. Such a small amount of pain is nothing compared to being crushed in half by a bus. It's still far from enough. Sure enough, after a brief period of unconsciousness, Cho Tiantian regained consciousness again before long. She was awakened by the pain. She was experiencing heavy bleeding from her lower body and had a miscarriage. At that moment, she was in a wretched state, covered in dust and dirt, with her lower body and pants stained crimson with blood, but she was not dead yet. I took out my backup phone. I logged into Cho Tiantian's QQ account and synced this photo to Conglong. P.S. Cho Tiantian had a miscarriage. She asked me to send you a message. She wants you to come to the girls' dormitory quickly and take her to the hospital. You'd better behave, or she'll expose your secret. While I was sending the message, Cho Tiantian actually managed to struggle up from the ground. Ignoring the bleeding from her lower body, she continued to hold onto the stair railing as she went downstairs. Her willpower was truly tenacious. She managed to slowly escape the dormitory building on her own. Not far from the dormitory building is the main road of the school. Conglong arrived faster than I had imagined. Cho Tiantian, still in her lovesick state at the time, kept waving at Conglong's car. The heavy rain gradually subsided, and she stepped out into the rain. Hopping on her right leg, she approached Conglong's car. However, Conglong gave her an inscrutable look. It seemed as if he had made some kind of decision. 16. After that, he acted as if he hadn't seen Cho Tiantian at all. His car made a sharp turn and then abruptly reversed. The rear of the car sped toward Cho Tiantian, sending her flying several meters away. Cho Tiantian suffered ruptured internal organs and massive bleeding, dying on the spot. Conglong drove away from the girls' dormitory as if nothing had happened. Several police cars and ambulances were parked at the dormitory entrance. The ambulance took away the severely injured Song Jingxi and the deceased Cho Tiantian. Conglong, as the perpetrator, was handcuffed by the police and shoved into a police car. Later, it was revealed that Conglong was not only suspected of intentional homicide, he secretly drugged and raped multiple female college students. He exploited his looks and family background, using a mix of kindness and intimidation on these women. When caught by the women, he would then confess his feelings and ask them to be his girlfriend. For those women who refused to toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, he either paid them off or threatened them with his power, and Cho Tiantian not only willingly became Conglong's girlfriend but also served as an accomplice in his act of rape. As for what the secret specifically was, when I messaged Conglong, I actually had no idea. I had previously borrowed Cho Tiantian's QQ account to play games. In her gaming chat records with Conglong, she frequently mentioned the word secret. Conglong, however, was extremely sensitive to these two words and would sometimes even react with anger. I suspected that the secret must be unfavorable to Conglong, so I deliberately provoked him, unexpectedly. The effect was surprisingly good. A few months later, Conglong was executed, and thanks to Cho Tiantian, the other three of us in our dorm have obtained the collective qualification for graduate school admission without examination, but I gave it up because my ideal school wasn't on the list for graduate school admission without examination. 2 years later, I signed up for the graduate school entrance exam. Through my own efforts, I received the admission letter from my ideal university. The new school has single dorm rooms with private bathrooms, and no roommates who like to boss people around. Even if there were, I've learned to say no. My new life has finally officially begun. The end. That concludes the first story. Stay tuned. The next one is even more exciting. When I went to the pork stall with my wife to buy meat, I gave a piece of pork to an old beggar, and the next day the police arrested me for intentional homicide. The old man pointed at me and said, "It's him. He insisted on giving me this meat even though I didn't want it. If my dog hadn't stolen and eaten it, I would be the one dead." I was taken to the police station, and my wife and brother rushed over. I thought they would defend me, but to my surprise, my wife produced a purchase order for rat poison, accusing me of being a deranged murderer. She then took off her outer clothing, revealing extensive bruises that had appeared at some point, and claimed that I abused her daily. As for my brother, after leaving, he handed the beggar old man a thick stack of cash. At that moment, I suddenly understood something, but by then I was unable to defend myself and was thrown into prison. In prison, my so-called brother arranged for someone to break all 4 of my limbs. On the day I was released, a truck hit and killed me on my way back. Just before I died, my brother stepped out of a Porsche with his arm around my wife and said smugly, "I might as well tell you, I bribed that old man, and the child in Ranran's belly is mine. The whole plan was to take your company. You never should have come out alive." My wife looked at me, on the verge of death, with disgust, and said, "Why didn't you just die in prison? What a waste of my time." Waking up again, I found myself back on the day I passed by the pork stall. 1. "Honey, that old man looks so pitiful. How about we buy a piece of pork and you take it over to him? Let's consider it an act of kindness to accumulate blessings for our child." "All right." The voice of my wife, Suran, reached my ears. And I snapped back to reality. Despite the sweltering 35-degree summer heat, a cold sweat broke out all over my body. Looking at that slightly stooped figure, I realized I had been reborn at this very moment of giving pork to the old beggar. In my previous life, I brought my pregnant wife to the meat market, intending to buy some pork to cook a nutritious meal for her. At that moment, an old beggar tremblingly approached us, using his withered hand to take out his only 5 yuan to buy a small piece of pork. My wife said he was pitiful, so without a second thought, I bought a piece of pork, caught up with the old man, and handed it to him. He even said with a laugh that I was a kind person and thanked me. But the next morning, several police officers broke down my door and arrested me on charges of attempted murder. On the day I was released from prison after several years, my brother and wife hired someone to run me over, all for the purpose of seizing all the property under my name. Although my wife was usually somewhat unreasonable, I never expected her to collude with my brother to harm me. This bitch. At this moment, seeing my indifference, my wife frowned and said, "What? You're not willing?" And before I could even speak, the old man had already stopped and was staring at me eagerly. It was as if everything had been arranged in advance. If I hadn't lived through this once before, I wouldn't have noticed anything unusual, I said calmly. He's quick and capable with his hands and feet. Why should I give him pork? Hearing this, my wife frowned, a flash of impatience in her expression, and suddenly raised her voice. "Husband, the old man is all alone and helpless. I'm just asking you to give him a piece of meat. It's not like he's after your property. He's practically starving to death. How can you be so heartless? If you won't give him the pork, fine, but why say he deserves it? Our child hasn't even been born yet. Aren't you afraid that this kind of behavior will bring misfortune upon our child?" After saying that, she looked at me with a triumphant expression and said, "Honey, don't mind it. I just wanted you to do a good deed and accumulate some virtue for the child in my belly." As soon as she finished speaking, the vegetable vendor across from us retorted angrily, "If you won't help, then fine. But don't kick someone when they're down. How did someone as immoral as you manage to marry such a beautiful wife?" With her taking the lead, others also started pointing fingers at me. The market was already crowded, and now even more people were gathering. Suddenly, someone in the crowd spoke up. "I saw him on the news before. He seems to be the boss of that newly listed company." "What's the name of the company? Expose it so everyone knows." I never expected he was a big boss. Some people really become more immoral the richer they get. Chapter 2. It's just a piece of pork, any of us could give it to you, but today we're making a point. You have to be the one to deliver it, otherwise, I'll expose your unscrupulous company and shut you down. I scanned the crowd, and my gaze finally settled on the person who had just spoken. He was wearing a baseball cap, a mask, and sunglasses, thinking no one would recognize him. But I spotted the mole on his chin right away and knew it was my buddy Lu Yen. A few years ago, when he had nowhere to turn, I was the one who gave him a helping hand. This bastard, he actually wants to kill me and take everything I have. However, before I could take any action, he sneered and disappeared into the crowd. At that moment, my wife tried to persuade me again. "Honey, why don't you just buy a piece of meat and give it to this old man? If you end up with a bad reputation because of this, it might affect your company's operations, and you could even go bankrupt." At that moment, the old beggar also came over, tugging at my arm with a pitiful expression. "Young man, they say you're a big boss. Surely you don't lack this small amount of money. I have a poor grandson at home. He lost his parents when he was little. It's my fault for not being able to earn enough money. He's already skin and bones from hunger. Please, have pity on us." As he spoke, he was about to kneel down to me. Seeing this, my wife quickly helped him up. "Old sir, please don't do this. My husband will definitely help you." Then, she looked at me and said, "Chen Feng, aren't you usually quite charitable? Why are you so heartless today?" Guided by her words, the crowd's gaze toward me grew increasingly hostile. Watching my wife's anxiety and the crowd's righteous indignation, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. I'd love to help, but unfortunately, I didn't bring any money with me today. Hearing this, my wife immediately transferred 200 yuan to me. Seeing this, someone questioned, "Since you have the money, and your husband isn't buying it, you could buy it yourself. Why wait until now?" My wife smiled slightly and said, "All the money in our family is earned by my husband. I know it's not easy for him to make money, so I don't dare to spend it recklessly." Hearing this, everyone praised my wife for her virtue, saying that marrying her was my good fortune, and urged me to quickly buy the pork for the old man. Even the pork stall owner had started cutting the meat. It's true that I earned the money, but the 10,000 yuan in spending money I gave my wife every month was never saved by her, so she was deliberately provoking everyone just now. I glanced at the transfer, but instead of buying meat, I walked straight to the nearby store and bought a pack of Huazi cigarettes. I lit one and took a drag. Good smoke. Chapter 3. Holy shit, he still won't buy pork even at this point. Is he even human? Meanwhile, his wife looked displeased. She gave the old man an almost imperceptible glance. Seeing this, the old man immediately understood. He deliberately walked over and bumped into me, intentionally dropping the small piece of pork he was holding onto the ground, allowing the stray dog to snatch it away. Then he showed a sad expression. If you're not going to give it to me, why did you feed the little bit I bought with all my money to the dog? Then, he said to the crowd, everyone, today is my grandson's birthday. He has leukemia and won't make it to his next birthday. I bought the pork just to celebrate with him today, but I never expected it would be fed to the dog. My grandson. Upon hearing this, the crowd erupted, calling me a bully who preys on the weak. Even Lu Yin, disguised in the crowd, once again took the lead in stirring up trouble. Scum like this doesn't deserve to live in this world. Beat him to death. If he doesn't compensate me for the pork today, he won't be leaving this place on his own 2 feet. The old man grabbed me tightly. If you don't return my pork, don't even think about leaving this market. The crowd surrounded me so tightly that I couldn't move, making it clear they wouldn't let me leave unless I bought the pork. Then, they started throwing vegetable leaves at me, and some even came forward to hit me. I sneered coldly, shook off the old man's hand, and immediately started recording with my phone. Let's see who dares to lay a hand on me today. Come on if you're not afraid of going to jail. Hearing the word jail, the previously restless crowd immediately hesitated to step forward. Then, I took out a $5 bill and tossed it to the old man. That piece of meat of yours is worth $5. Even if I knocked it over, this money is more than enough to compensate you. We have no connection whatsoever, so don't even think about trying to pin this on me. Then, I slowly walked out of the vegetable market, holding up my phone. Seeing this, the old man quickly looked at his wife for help. His wife glared at him fiercely and cursed under her breath. Useless. Then she shouted at me, Chen Feng, don't you dare leave. If you step out of this vegetable market, I'll abort the child and divorce you. I didn't even turn my head. Whatever. Chapter 4. That night, I was busy at the company until midnight and printed out the divorce agreement, planning to divorce my wife as soon as I got home. But just as I was about to go home, I saw my wife in the parking lot downstairs. I stopped my plan to start the car and decided to see what she was going to do. She got into a Mercedes-Benz with her slightly bulging belly. The person who came down to help her was none other than Lu Yin. Soon, the car began to shake. Panting sounds accompanied by conversation were clearly audible in the quiet parking lot. Slow down. Be careful not to hurt our child. Don't worry. I know my limits. By the way, that useless guy failed today. What should we do next? Don't worry. As long as he doesn't divorce you, I have plenty of ways to kill him and take his property, but today I think I heard him say he plans to get a divorce. Don't worry, he can't escape my grasp. Then, the two stopped talking and didn't resume until after they had finished their pleasure and left the parking lot. At this moment, although I was angry, I felt an even greater sense of urgency. The divorce cannot be delayed any longer. Once the divorce is finalized, no matter what happens, everything about me will have nothing to do with my wife. Even if she tries to harm me again, it will be useless. Thinking of this, I stepped on the gas and hurried home, but my wife wasn't there. In the middle of the night, I received an anonymous text message. You've made me suffer so much. I won't let you off even as a ghost. I didn't need to think to know it was from the old beggar, but threats are useless against me. On the contrary, he even has a mobile phone. Seems like a professional beggar. I set the divorce papers aside and went to sleep peacefully, until the next morning. A knock sounded at the door. My wife had a habit of forgetting her keys, so I thought it was her returning. I grabbed the divorce papers and went to open the door, but as soon as I opened it, several people in police uniforms pushed past me and barged in. Someone reported you for murdering the old man by the pork stall. Please come with us. I quickly explained, Officer, I'm not familiar with that old man. The only time we had contact was when I passed by the pork stall and he insisted that I give him some pork. He even tried to grab me, and I only pushed him away in self-defense. A young police officer angrily said, You're really in a hurry to defend yourself, aren't you? Self-defense that led you to his home to kill him. My mind went blank, and I widened my eyes, saying, What did you say? At that moment, another middle-aged police officer took out a white Ziploc bag from his briefcase, inside of which was a blood-stained dagger. He stared at me intently, as if trying to see right through me, and said in a deep voice, He's dead, and the fingerprints on this knife are yours. I recalled the news from last night, and my mind went blank with shock. Chapter 5. 5. Even though I wasn't the one who killed him, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of nervousness when the evidence pointed toward me. Upon closer inspection, the dagger had a handle wrapped in hemp rope and a serrated blade. Though not long, it exuded a chilling, murderous aura. This was clearly the kind of tool used for cutting meat in a market, but I had never touched anything like this before. How could my fingerprints be on it? I quickly defended myself. Officer, there must be some misunderstanding here, or perhaps someone is trying to frame me. I've never seen this dagger before. The young police officer's face was cold as he pointed at the blood-stained dagger and said sharply, still making excuses, only your fingerprints are on this. Are you telling me it's a misunderstanding? You're not going to say that the dagger ran over and stabbed the old man by itself, then magically formed your fingerprints on it, are you? His voice was raised. I knew that during interrogations, raising one's voice often helps instill fear in suspects. Some criminals, unable to endure the relentless pressure, end up confessing everything, but since I hadn't committed the crime, I absolutely could not admit to it. He wanted to continue applying pressure, but the middle-aged police officer who had been closely watching my every move stopped him. His expression doesn't seem fake. This matter requires careful consideration. But as soon as he finished speaking, the door was pushed open and two people walked in. He's an expert at acting. Don't let him fool you. Sue ran, holding Lu Yan's arm, looked as if they were the real couple. With my sharp eyes, I noticed that the handbag Sue Ran was carrying was filled with seductive lingerie meant for flirtation, and on Lu Yan's neck, there were densely packed love bites. So, the two of them had been out all night. Where had they gone to have their secret fun? Although I intended to divorce Sue Ran, seeing my wife fooling around with another man made it impossible to suppress the anger in my heart. Sue Ran, not only did you cheat, but you also planned to help this bastard kill me. You truly are a vicious woman. And you, Lu Yan, back then you tried to imitate me by starting a business, but you didn't have what it takes when your venture failed. If it weren't for me taking you in and giving you a high position and salary, who knows where you'd be now? Struggling to survive. Upon hearing this, the two of them sneered. Chin Fong, what you're saying is pure nonsense, and even if it were true, you're already like an ant on a hot pan, running around in a panic. You've lived half your life, and even if you've succeeded in starting a business, in my eyes, you're still just a worthless person. Didn't you just say you didn't kill anyone? Well, we've returned this time with ample evidence. After saying this, Sue Ran took out his phone and played a surveillance video for everyone to see. Everyone gathered around, and Lu Yan spoke up at that moment. Officer, last night I noticed him acting suspiciously and with ill intentions, so I went to check the surveillance footage from nearby hotels and restaurants. I never expected I'd actually catch him in the act. Sure enough, he went all the way to that old beggar's home. Then, pointing at me, he shouted loudly, Chin Fong, you keep saying you took me in. But over all these years, haven't I worked like a horse for you? Haven't I given my all for you? Yet you only pay me a fixed salary that hasn't changed for so many years. You're just a petty scumbag. Everyone only asked you to give a piece of pork to the elderly, and you actually held a grudge and went and killed them. Someone like you deserves to be hacked to pieces. I watched the footage on the video. The figure had no disguise and looked very much like me. But I was clearly at the company all last night, and then I went home, and since I'm going to commit a crime, why wouldn't I make any attempt to conceal it? This is clearly a case of no silver buried here, an obvious cover-up. There were many neighbors going up and down the stairwell, and soon the doorway was crowded with people. After learning what had happened, they began pointing fingers at me. This person looks all prim and proper, driving luxury cars like Maybachs in daily life. But who would have thought he'd turn out to be such a narrow-minded villain? To think such scum lives in the same building as us. Luckily we found out early, or who knows who among us might have been next to suffer. However, some expressed doubts, like the young woman in her 20s living alone across the hall, who said, I always thought they seemed like a harmonious couple. Could there be some misunderstanding? Hearing this, the wife immediately looked at her, this sister. What you're seeing is all an illusion. Ever since we got married, he has often subjected me to emotional abuse, and after I became pregnant, he stopped giving me money to spend. Even worse, just because he saw me getting a bit closer to An, he started beating and kicking me. If you don't believe me, look. After saying that, she lifted her clothes, revealing the skin on her body. At this moment, on Sue Ran's originally smooth and fair skin that I had cherished, there were now numerous scars. I stared intently at Sue Ran. Those injuries on your body must be fake. You're deliberately trying to frame me. But my words ignited the crowd. Stop making excuses after hitting someone. Officer, please arrest him quickly. I'm really afraid he might knock on my door someday. At this moment, the scene was exactly the same as in my previous life. In the previous life, it was a similar scene. The old man brought the police to my door. accusing me of poisoning his pork. Then, Suran and Luyan hurried to the police station, presenting evidence that pointed to me as the culprit, but in this life, I clearly avoided them. Why is this still happening? Finally, after watching this farce unfold, the young police officer finally spoke. Chen Feng, do you have anything to say for yourself? If not, then come with us and carefully explain the process of how you killed someone. Upon hearing this, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my head. But at this moment, I couldn't produce any strong evidence to prove my innocence. However, just as the two police officers were about to take me away, a crucial point suddenly emerged in my rapidly working mind. Wait, I have evidence to prove my innocence, and I might even be able to identify the real murderer. Chapter 6. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Suran sneered repeatedly. Chen Feng, stop talking nonsense here, will you? I think you're just trying to buy time. Tell me, have you already called your lawyer, planning to use money to settle this? Don't think you're so great just because you have a bit of money. Let me tell you, in this world, justice is never late. The surrounding crowd also cheered in agreement. That's right, scum like him should be shot on the spot without any chance to argue. Just because he's rich, he thinks he can commit crimes and solve everything with money, but no matter how rich you are, you can't ignore human lives. I watch them coldly. Some of these people live here, and I've helped them quite a bit in my daily life, yet at such a critical moment, they're all just watching the excitement without caring how big the trouble gets, but there's no use in saying more to them. I look at the police officers. Gentlemen, with so many people here, I can't run away. If you believe what I'm saying, let me present evidence to prove my innocence. The law is impartial, but it also emphasizes fairness and justice. I should at least be given the opportunity to defend myself. Upon hearing this, the two police officers exchanged a smile. Finally, the middle-aged officer nodded and said loudly, given the complexity of this matter and the possibility of a frame-up, we cannot completely identify the suspect at this time. Then, he looked at me and said, where is the evidence you mentioned? If you can't prove your innocence, you'd better confess to the crime honestly. At that moment, Suran looked somewhat impatient and scoffed. What more proof is needed? Isn't the evidence right here? Since when do you police not trust evidence? But as soon as she finished speaking, she was reprimanded. Watch your words. If we find out you're slandering him, don't blame us for being impolite. Suran was too frightened by the harsh words to speak again. Under everyone's gaze, I slowly began to speak. My evidence is at the company. Suran frowned. Weren't you at home last night? How can going to the company prove your innocence? I sneered. Who told you I was at home? I know exactly what you did last night. Hearing my words, Suran widened his eyes but didn't dare to say anything. After that, two police officers escorted me into the police car and we headed to the company. I said I have evidence to prove myself, and it's not without reason. Because just now, I saw in the video that the time I went to the old man's house was after 1 in the morning, but at that time, I was in the company office organizing divorce documents. Moreover, after leaving the company, I went to the self-service printer at the store, and there is surveillance there as well. Chapter 7. After arriving at the company, everyone who saw me wanted to call me President Chin. But upon noticing the two police officers beside me and the curious onlookers who had gathered, they immediately kept their distance. I directly took them to the monitoring room and retrieved the surveillance footage of me entering and leaving the office at that time. Looking at the clear figure on the screen, everyone was immediately puzzled. The officer asked Suran to replay the so-called evidence she had. Compared to the footage I provided, hers is somewhat blurry. Are you sure the person you saw is Chen Feng? The police stared at Liu Yan and asked, word by word. Liu Yan's gaze was unsteady, but he gritted his teeth and said, there's no mistake, I'm sure it's him. Then who is at the company? He must have secretly hired someone to fake the video, and besides, the fingerprints on the knife are his. That can't be wrong. I sneered. I'll say it again, if you claim the video can be faked, then the fingerprints can be faked too. If you don't believe me, you can also check the surveillance footage from the self-service printer in the store. Upon hearing this, the young police officer was about to retrieve the surveillance footage, but the store owner informed him that the strong wind last night had blown the camera out of position. However, even though there was no evidence, he also mentioned that he had gotten up once last night and saw someone printing something, and that person looked very much like me at this moment. The two surveillance videos had already provided me with an alibi. As for the fingerprints on the knife, the possibility of forgery cannot be ruled out. Despite these pieces of evidence, I still couldn't shake off my status as a suspect. Meanwhile, the police, due to Suran and Liu Yan repeatedly targeting me, began to suspect them as well. We all went to the police station to give our statements. That's when I found out that the two of them had gone to a hotel last night and spent the whole night there. After leaving the police station, I first went to the company. As I was about to head home, I spotted the car I had given to Suran when we first got married, parked in a corner. Although Suran had a driver's license, she was not skilled at driving and had never driven it. I clearly remember the parking spot was in the very corner, but now, although it's still a corner, it shifted one spot over from the original position. Moreover, last night, the car they were fooling around in was also Lu Yan's. As if possessed, I took out the spare key and walked over, but I had no idea until I opened it, and the scene inside gave me a fright. Chapter 8. On each of the 4 car seats, there was Suran's favorite pink plush toy, but on the back seat, I noticed some traces of their intimate encounters, which were utterly disgusting. In an instant, it occurred to me. Had they tried every possible place for their affairs, my office, our home, the garage, but these are nothing compared to the most important thing, the trunk. When I opened it, there was only one box inside. Upon opening the box, I found a human skin mask inside. The important thing is, the mask looked exactly like me. The next moment, I immediately went back to the company's monitoring room and personally retrieved all the surveillance footage from between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. last night. And as it turned out, my guess was correct. In the footage, Suran was seen walking arm in arm with Lu Yan into the underground parking lot. The two first fooled around in Lu Yan's car before leaving, but right after I drove away, the two of them came back and got into the car I bought for Suran. The reason isn't hard to guess. They probably went to get the car keys. After that, the car drove out for about half an hour before returning, but at that moment, the ones who got out of the car turned out to be Suran and me. However, this me tore off the mask from his face, placed it in a cardboard box, and put it in the trunk. I immediately copied this footage and then prepared to go to the police station. Before that, I went back home to get the divorce agreement. I was planning to divorce her when Suran and Lu Yan were summoned to the police station, but unexpectedly, she was at home. When she saw me, her face was filled with coldness. Chen Feng. You murderer, why are you coming back? I sneered. I was the one who bought this house in the first place. This is my home. If I don't come back here, where else should I go? As for you, you've been spreading lies and framing me in front of others. What are your intentions? Starting today, you should move out and live elsewhere. Upon hearing this, Suran was taken aback but immediately grew angry. Chen Feng, how dare you speak to me like this? I'm carrying your child in my womb, and you're telling me to move out. I must have been blind to marry you back then. I said that only because I didn't want you to sink deeper into this. Repent sooner and start anew as soon as possible. I gave a faint smile and suddenly pressed her against the wall. Go ahead, say it again. Whose child is it really in your belly? Chapter 9. Hearing my question, Suran widened her eyes, but the next moment, she pushed me away with all her strength, a flicker of evasion crossing her face. The child isn't yours. Who else could it be then? Listening to her stream of lies, I no longer had the energy to keep up the pretense with her. Suran, let's get a divorce. You had an affair during our marriage and even helped another man set me up. Leaving with nothing is the best outcome for you. After saying this, I directly took out the divorce agreement and asked her to sign it. The moment she saw the divorce agreement, Suran's eyes turned red. Chen Feng, what did you say? You want to divorce me? I said impatiently. Suran, could you please stop putting on an act? I've known about your affair with Lu Yan for a long time. The child in your belly isn't mine either. Isn't it just that you're after my money? Hurry up and sign it. Don't test my patience. But after taking the divorce agreement, Suran suddenly tore it to pieces. Chen Feng, the child in my belly is really yours, you have to believe me. As soon as she finished speaking, her phone rang. She hesitated in her hand. I said calmly, answer it. Suran pressed the answer button, and Lu Yan's voice came through the phone. Ran, I've come to find you. By the way, I've thought of a great plan. As long as you help me put some poison in that useless man's food, we can claim he committed suicide out of guilt. We'll still get his assets. And then I'll take you abroad to live together and enjoy our own world. The words were clear and audible, and Suran's hand trembled because of it. She trembled and dared not speak. I snatched his phone away. Lu Yan, between us, it's either you die or I perish. The next moment, the door was kicked open. Lu Yan saw Suran's eyes reddening and immediately turned to glare at me angrily. Chen Feng, what did you do to Ran? I sneered. How ridiculous. What gives you the right to question me? Who do you think you are? Lu Yan was stunned by my scolding, but then he sneered coldly. Chen Feng, what are you so arrogant about? Besides, I didn't come here today to settle old scores with you. Ran, are you okay? Lu Yan hurried over to support Suran, affectionately patting her belly. Then he raised his head and looked at me angrily. Chen Feng, if anything happens to Ran or the child in her womb, I'll make you pay. I sneered. You seem to care about her quite a bit, huh? Luyan felt guilty but insisted stubbornly, Ranran has been your wife for years, I just can't stand how you treat her, so don't talk nonsense. Oh, if you can't stand it, I'll let you have her then. How dare you compare Ranran to an object? I won't let this slide. Just as tensions were rising to a boiling point, Suran suddenly stepped in to mediate. Ayan, since things have come to this, you should step out first. I need to have a few words with him. Upon hearing this, although Luyan was unwilling, he ultimately gave me a fierce glare before retreating into the bedroom. That bastard didn't wait outside. Instead, he went inside. What do you want to say? Nothing much. Just that if you really want a divorce, it's possible, but you have to agree to one condition. I just want to get divorced quickly and then punish them for their crimes, I said. Go on, give me 1/3 of the shares in your company. Otherwise I won't sign. Of course, don't overthink it. I just want to use this money to raise our child. I pretended to agree. Fine, sign it. Suran gave me a deep look and signed his name. After receiving the agreement, I never wanted to see them again, and fearing that delays might bring trouble, I went straight to the police station. I told the police about the mask. The same middle-aged man was still the one who received me, with such strong evidence. Luyan has no way to turn the situation around, but when the police went to arrest him, he was nowhere to be found. When she saw me again, Suran questioned whether I had tampered with her car, but I took the spare key, started the car, and casually said, "Oh, by the way, this car is also part of my property. When are you going to return it to me?" No matter how much Suran yelled behind me, I didn't look back. I drove the car to the company parking lot, but as soon as I got out, someone pressed a dagger against my back. I turned around and saw that it was none other than Luyan, who had been missing. What do you want to do? Luyan sneered. It's nothing, as long as you obediently prepare 100 million for me, I naturally won't harm you. I forced myself to calm down and said coldly, you want to go abroad, Suran is pregnant with your child, are you just going to abandon them? Luyan sneered, she was just a tool for me to use. With money, there are plenty of women who would follow me. Why would I want someone like her, who's nothing but trash? I said calmly. She might mean nothing to you, but in her eyes, you are everything. Are you really sure you want to abandon her? Luyan impatiently replied, stop the nonsense, get someone to bring the money quickly, or you won't leave here alive. But just then, a voice sounded from behind Luyan. Ayan, is everything you said true? Suran's voice suddenly rang out. Luyan was stunned for a moment, but then a ferocious sneer spread across his face. So what if it's true? I originally wanted to use you to get his company, but you're more of a liability than an asset, and you even dragged me down with you. Damn it all. After that, I called my subordinate and told them to prepare the money, but I had embedded a hidden message within it. Soon after, my subordinate arrived at the scene with 100 million in cash. Upon seeing so much money, Luyan snatched the suitcase and immediately ran outside. However, just as he exited the underground parking lot, several police officers had already arrived ahead of time and instantly arrested him. Afterwards, Luyan confessed to the criminal facts, including pretending to be me to cause the death of the old beggar and fabricating evidence. As for Suran, from beginning to end, she was only thinking about how to help Luyan obtain my property. After hearing Luyan's statement, she suffered a heavy blow. A psychiatric evaluation revealed that she had developed depression because of the illness. I couldn't go to prison and had to go to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. Many years later, I saw her again, but didn't see her child. It was only then that I learned that back then, to get revenge on Luyan, she jumped directly from the 3rd floor during her treatment and lost the child. At the desk, I listened to my subordinate's report and shook my head. Heaven sees what man does. One wrong step on the path beneath your feet could lead to eternal ruin. The end. That's all for today's